It was a typical Tuesday morning, the kind of day when hope and anxiety are blended together in that salty air. Micah and I had been talking about this flight for weeks. The thrill of flying first class was almost palpable to both of us. We were giddy, practically buzzing from the anticipation of the luxury I had only read about in magazines. But as we boarded and stepped into that narrow, pristine aisle, something shifted. The mood in the cabin was as heavy as the plush seats in their leather upholstery, an uninviting silence broken only by muffled murmurs. I tried to shake off the nervous energy, reminding myself I belonged here too. I mean, who wouldn't want to enjoy a complimentary drink for a change? But then as we settled into our seats, Micah breaking out in a grin that lit up the almost too opulent surroundings, the tranquility of the moment shattered. A flight attendant hovered nearby, her gaze piercing right through us. "Excuse me, but you don't belong here," she said to Micah, her tone sharp and dismissive. It was like a punch to the gut, an unwarranted jab fueled by bias. I could practically see the tension ripple through the cabin as heads turned in silent judgment. At that moment, the vibrant excitement of my first-class debut began to crumble. I could feel the disapproval radiating from every corner of the cabin, business men and women whose self-importance dripped from their polished smiles. It was suffocating, and I felt the weight of every condescending stare. But the real kicker, when the flight attendant approached us mid-flight regarding us like we were some kind of disturbance after another passenger complained. "We need you to move," she stated flatly. "There's been some kind of system error. You should go back to your assigned seats." It felt like the cabin itself was holding its breath, the moment stretching thick like molasses. I glanced at Micah, whose expression went from blissful wonder to confusion and disappointment in an instant. I knew this wasn't an accident. This was blatant bias that no one else seemed to register or worse care about. And there I was torn between wanting to protect him and wanting to scream at the absurdity of it all. I could feel the tension swelling like a hot air balloon ready to pop. We packed our things, moving to coach the smaller crowded section like a judgment chamber, where the scorn of my fellow passengers was palpable. "You don't belong here, sweetie," echoed in my head, a snarky mantra. And then in my frustration, like a light bulb flipping on, I remembered my Uncle Raymond. He had spent years at the FAA. I quickly typed a text, a single word. "Problem." That's all I needed to say. His response was immediate, the kind that put panic in the air. Within minutes, I could hear the faint, almost eerie sound of flight crew scrambling, a palpable flicker of confusion cruising through the cabin. It felt like a scene straight out of a movie, a little too dramatic for comfort, and a little too reckless. Suddenly, I learned 124 flights were grounded, all stemming from Uncle Raymond's swift actions. It was as if a boulder had been thrown into a quiet lake, creating ripples that I could only imagine would cascade beyond comprehension. A crowd at the airport must have been watching, waiting and wondering what had just happened. Soon enough, a new crew came on board, totally replacing the original team. And who should be there but Carla? The new flight attendant, her demeanor immediately blending warmth and professionalism. With a welcoming smile, she approached us. "I understand there was an issue," she said softly, empathy radiating from her like sunlight. "Thank you for your patience." It wasn't just the respect she showed us that quelled the frustration, but rather a sense of vindication that no one was above accountability. We weren't there to stir up trouble. We just wanted a pleasant flight without feeling like we were intruding on someone else's space, an experience that turned into a headline. As news outlets picked up the story, people began to talk not just about the incident itself, but the systematic biases that allowed such an upset to happen. Social media became a marketplace of opinions, outrage, sparking discussions about how judgment intersects with privilege and access. The fiery rhetoric about inequality echoed in homes and offices, igniting conversations we needed to have. Micah and I, we hadn't gone looking for a revolution. We were just a couple of excited siblings wanting to enjoy a flight together, but by standing our ground, we unintentionally became agents of change in a system that needed shaking up. It was eye-opening, a reminder that even small actions can have monumental consequences, how far just one text could push the conversation into the public sphere. But as I sit here processing everything that unfolded after that flight, I can't help but think about the power of voice, the necessity of advocating for what's right. So I turn this back to you, my viewers. Have you ever faced a moment when you felt you didn't belong, or witnessed someone else being belittled or dismissed? Share your stories in the comments. Let's discuss the importance of standing up against bias. Are moments like these turning points for greater change or just temporary disruptions? Your voice matters, so let's hear it.